Hello and greetings from Iceland. I just got back from Reykjavik, where I bought myself a new drone, and I decided to do a bit of practice by the volcano, of course. And just when I was finishing my shots, I got the news that the activity in the volcano is rising. The latest measurements show that between July 2nd and 27th, the amount of lava measures around 11 cubic meters per second. And that is only 1 cubic meter less than when it was at its peak performance. And the last days, they helped a lot with that. It's been a lot of life there for the last days. But for a while we thought that this was coming to an end. And as for all this lava that's coming up now, it is good news that it is flowing down to Merardalir, which is a way better option than to have it down in Nátthagi. But Nátthagi Valley will be my main subject today. It is the lava in Nátthagi Valley which is posing threat to the farmhouse and the land around it. And we have the risk, of course, that it could close the south coast road, and that is bad. That road is one of the escape routes from the town Grindavik. So that part of the story is something that I am very interested in. So since I got finally the drone footage that I've been wanting to get for some time, I'm using the chance now to do this update and show you the landscape better than I've been able to show you before. So before we go up to the barrier, this is the farmhouse at risk and the farmland, and behind it is the town Grindavik. So we are facing west, and the volcano is just north of us. My forecast for the whole time has been that the lava would come to the right of this road here, the South Coast Road, and I'm sticking to that forecast. And I will show you better later on why. But first I want to tell you about that there are 3 car parks there now. They were all full today. Private cars, rental cars and buses. And tourists all around. And we just got the news that this volcano had 200,000 visitors so far. And Icelanders are around 350,000. So this is big business. And you can also buy fish and chips on the way up to the volcano. The landowners of the land where the volcano is had to sacrifice some land for the car parks. And I'm now lifting the drone up from the car park and looking into the valley that we are going to visit, just to give you a little sample of the landscape there. I was going to make this shot a bit longer, but I'm still learning about the flight time of my drone. So this was the end of battery number 1 that day. So I moved on and walked up there to the barrier to see how it was holding. And surprisingly, this looks pretty well. And I think that this barrier will hold for way longer time than we thought at first. But before we analyze the barrier better, I'm going to show you this time-lapse. In the background, on the mountain, we see the tourists who are trying to get as close to the crater as possible. It is not possible to get as close to it as it was. And it is not as lively to see as it was like 2 months ago. So I decided to skip it, to go all the way, because I had to drive 400 kilometers back north today, finish this video and do some wedding video tomorrow, since a niece of mine is getting married. Then we take a look at the foreground. There we have people who are doing exactly what the search and rescue teams have asked people not to do. Because even if it seems safe, just under there is a red hot glowing lava. And if you will put your leg on a wrong spot, that's going to end up in disaster. And to see people walking there with their children was a bit weird. It reminded me of the movie Space Odyssey, or this scene here, where the monkeys were curiously looking at this thing, and I somehow hoped that we as humans had learned a bit more. But anyway, it was fun to see the artwork that the nature offered me. So I had plenty to do there in front of the lava, and I didn't take a walk up there. It was just enough to find the heat from it and look at the formations and enjoy. I was, however, a bit concerned over the fact that there were no signs telling people to stay away from it. There was this information sign where the trail began, but very little up there. And I just read this interview just a few days ago, where members of the search and rescue team were complaining about the fact that tourists were doing dangerous and stupid things. And many Icelanders call this the Valley of Idiots. And if you have good connections with Google Maps, we would need your help to register the valley as such. But let's move to the barrier. This is how it looks, not complicated. And the lava in the valley would have to rise for around 10 meters before it would flow over it. But then we have the option to make it even bigger. So this looks pretty good. And the location is just great. So the barrier don't have to be that big or expensive. And this is not the only barrier. And when we look downhill from the barrier, this is what we see. The lava would go down there. And there we have a natural barrier. Not a valley, but a piece of land that's sitting low, and it would allow the lava to accumulate there and hold it back for maybe 1-2 weeks, something like that, is my guess. And on that location, there is some construction work going on, and it's the guys who are trying to protect the fiber optic cable. And this cable is a very important part of our telecommunication service. So they are digging it deeper down and adding gravel on top of that. So if this piece of land there will go on the lava, this might be enough to isolate it from the heat, or so we hope. And we continue down, and we are now close to the last obstacle. And just about where the lava would flow, they are making a new car park, a bit strange location, I must say. And it would flow there from right to left. And in this photo here, you can see the coastline and the South Coast Road, and a tiny bit of the farmhouse. And the South Coast Road would work as a barrier for a part of that way. So we are back by the farmhouse, and the lava would come flowing down by the road on the right side. If you are wondering about those tunnels under the road, those are sheep tunnels. And to the right of the road is some land space, not much. Lava could accumulate there for maybe few days. Then it would flow over the road and down to the sea. And just to give you an idea about the landscape here, this is how it looks when I turn my camera to east, or as I mentioned before, this whole peninsula is just one chunk of lava of different age. And this time-lapse was shot from Grindavik harbor yesterday. It was a lot of smoke coming up from a crater then. We had this mushroom-shaped cloud that could be seen from all over the peninsula, from Reykjavik and everywhere around. So this is a fine sample of what it was doing yesterday. Here are also some shots that I took last evening from Reykjavik. And I did actually a lot of photo shooting last night. And many of those photos or videos are awaiting editing. And I was actually very lucky because it was very nice weather in Reykjavik for the last 2 days. But it's been a terrible summer there. Cold and boring. And then when it got close to midnight, I was able to see the fire all the way from Reykjavik, from my sister's window where I stayed. And she told me that if this will go on, it will save her a lot of money before next Christmas, because Christmas lights, she won't need that. And this is free and saves electricity also. So she is very practical, like me. And finally, I want to remind you that the Brightonites of Iceland they are no more. It is in the last week of July when they get dark again, meaning that you can enjoy the lava glowing through the webcams again. It means also that the northern light season is about to start in like 10-15 days, I would guess. And I have a video in the making about how it's best to find them, because that is way more tricky than many think. But when we find them from a right spot, it is like nothing else. So I'm hoping to get that video online soon. But before that, I need to do some lessons on the drone. I did it the easy way in my first flights and had everything on auto. But as for some footage that I will be shooting, it needs some work in After Effects and such. And I will have to shoot that in manual. So there are plenty of new things to learn for me, since I have not been shooting with drones before. But it's not boring work, so I'm okay with it. And you will see on my channel that this is like going from 2D to 3D. And my head was full of ideas on the way back. So I have trips planned this weekend. So it's lots to come. And I hope you enjoyed the sample of how I want to present things from air, Steadicam shots and time-lapses, or just whatever it needs to explain Iceland. And with that, I'm sending you best regards from the volcano that still goes on.